Okay, Johnny.
Hello and welcome to Cinema Jam. You are listening in to a new mini jam. I'm your host, Sebastian Gomez, and today we are going to dive deep in a film that is bound to be one of the most talked about horror experiences of the year. We are talking about Weapons, the new horror thriller from New Line Cinema and the original mind behind Barbarian, Cregger. The film has been shrouded in mystery. They have been able to contain a lot of the mystery surrounding it, especially the trailers don't give a lot of information, and but it has been enough to grab the attention of anyone that is interested in the movie, especially because the premise, the missing children, that's basically the introductory test. I mean, it is narrated, but it is like basically like the first text, like in a Star Wars movie. It shows that because we start the movie when the children have already disappeared. So that's not a spoiler. That's only how the movie develops. I think it was enough to grab the attention of people. It put the movie at the top of the weekend box office when it came out on August 8th. It features an stellar cast with the excellent work of Julia Garner as one of the main characters, Josh Brolin, Benedict Wong, and especially the magnificent acting of Amy Madigan. I I do hope that she is recognized by the Academy at the end of the year because her performance is magnificent. And I believe all of them deliver powerful performances because they are able to match the intense story that is being displayed. Let's talk about the story. The story kicks off when all children but one are missing from the same class, and they mysteriously disappear or vanish on the same night at the exact same time. So this event throws an entire community into a spiral of confusion and fear, questioning who or what is behind the disappearance. So I'm going to put a little clip from the movie, especially because it will help us set up the tone.
Mr. Graff, I can understand your passion, and I don't mind having these conversations with you because, God forbid, if it was my child, I'd be demanding answers too. Those kids walked out of those homes. No one pulled them out. No one forced them. What do you see that I don't?
So Weapons is probably one of those movies that can be considered a horror masterpiece. I truly believe it's going to win converts through repeated viewings and through time. The first major pro of the movie is that the script structure starts with the disappearance, but instead of a linear investigation, the film focuses on the fallout, showing how this event affects everyone in town, from parents and teachers to people living that are not directly related to the mystery. The narrative brilliantly jumps between different characters' perspectives and points in time. That's actually a very important point. It's not a Rashomon style story where in Rashomon basically they tell the same story through different points of view with differences. No, in this case, it's closer to a Pulp Fiction style of mystery, Tarantino movie, where we learn a little bit more with each shift of character in interconnected events from different angles or points of view or at different times. Just like in his first feature film, Barbarian, Cregger has developed a film that has a lot of artistry. The combination of story rhythm, darkened sepals, cinematography, and the sound design generates a level of tension and suspense that effectively upgrades the entire experience. I do recommend that a lot of people watch it in the movie theater, especially with their phones off, because the better attention that you put in the movie, it really rewards you much better at the end. Now, for the cons, the film certainly has shown that it's not for everyone. But I do believe, as I mentioned before, that if repeated viewings are going to actually improve your enjoyment of the movie, and especially that non-linear structure that I praise so much can be a challenge. It demands that the people that are watching the movie pay full attention to piece everything together. And some viewers might find it confusing or alienating, preventing them from connecting deeply with the characters on the first watch. So beyond the central mystery, Weapons explores profound themes. It is a deep dive into community grief, paranoia, and especially how ordinary people react when they're faced with something they cannot explain, right? So the film seems less interested in the who and more in the why and the what happens next to the soul or the character of a town. I mean, we do find out the who, but at the beginning it doesn't seem to be that interesting. And that's interesting because we're not really in a mystery movie, where we're following the detectives looking for the missing children. We only in one of the character chiefs that we have is a cop that is not even related to the case. So we're just as I mentioned, we're more interested in the why and what happens next, basically. So it's a very interesting because it's something that you don't expect from this type of movies. And so it's interesting how the character development here in this movie is unique. As I mentioned before, we don't follow one protagonist. The film treats the entire community as the main character. So that's why we see how different individuals cope or don't cope with the tragedy. And their arcs are revealed in fragments, which makes the final picture all the more powerful or impactful. And the ending is actually, and also this actually makes the ending more satisfying. It has been a while where I've seen an ending that gives the audience like a release of all the tension and dread that we have, that we have accumulated through the movie. But the very interesting thing is that you cannot say it's a happy ending. There is justice in the ending, but the trauma remains, and that's a message I think the director Zach Cregg is able to transmit. Even if we know who did it, that doesn't mean it's going to be an instant cure, basically, to the real troubles that a community faces. So the plot is a masterclass in building suspense, as I mentioned before, by revealing information out of chronological order. Cregger ensures that the audience is always on the edge of the seat and constantly reevaluating what they think they know. It's a puzzle box, basically, that keeps you guessing until the very end, but it's giving you all the details a little by little. So it's very, very satisfying. And I'm going to mention this. It was brought to my attention, especially because Zach Cregger did a PSA about, don't test and talk during the movie in the Alamo Drafthouse screening that I went to. And he points his background and the background of many famous horror directors that actually have some connection with the comedy. Jordan Peele had a famous sketch comedy show. Alfred Hitchcock was part of a comedy theater in England. John Camperton John Carpenter was a comedian and a magician, and Dario Argento, the famous Italian Gallo filmmaker, was a clown in his youth. So, and Zach Cregger himself was part of a comedy troupe and comedy show when he was younger, as an actor, and as a creator, and as a writer. So, that connection, making, I guess, the emotions of moving people's emotions to comedy, creating laughter, and transferring that knowledge to horror has actually been very interesting, because many of these directors are actually some of my favorites. So learning that during this PSA was actually quite interesting. And you can feel the expert control of the audience reactions in every frame of Weapons. And a lot of people in the reviews mentioned that it's a funny movie with a horror element. I didn't particularly find it funny, but it was more like, that nervous laugh that you sometimes have when you're watching something that is uncomfortable for you. So I actually had that nervous laugh several times during the movie. I don't find it funny, but it was actually a good release during this build-up of tension. So, do I recommend the movie? Yes, absolutely. Please go see it, especially if you can see it in the theater. I think it's worth having that experience. There is a very good combination of cinematography and sound and music that is worth watching in the movie theater. Do go prepare for a challenging and unconventional experience, especially because it does reward patience and attention. If you're a fan of atmospheric slow burn horror, then this is a must see. This is definitely a must see. And for people that like, gore and blood and all that, there are actually some gory parts, especially at the end. So if you want to see that, well, I just have to warn you that it's going to be at the end of the movie, basically in the last third act of the movie, kind of like in Barbarian, to be honest. Like all the gore and visceral parts are at the end of the movie. So yeah, it's gonna come fast and kind of unexpectedly at the end of the movie. So yeah, keep it in mind. That's all for today. If you have seen Weapons and you like it or have a different take on it, please send me your comments. You can search for us in social media channels as Cinema Jam Pod. Especially, I hope that you can share this podcast for other movie lovers and follow us. Until next time, and keep jamming about movies.